Well, well, it's come to my attention. I'm going to have to say something about the Swedish government's approach to dealing with the coronavirus, which I'm beginning to suspect is beginning to be quite fearful. It's actually quite a wrong and bad idea that they're pursuing. Economically, it's a tough question, but it's going to be a tough question economically, no matter what you do. Any measure is going to have broad, sweeping consequences, like banning planes coming to your country, or it's going to affect the airlines severely, and banning ships is going to affect the ports. And I mean, the thing about Sweden is it's got into the news because the guy in charge of the bureaucracy there has fastened on this idea of having minimal public health measures, like closing schools and businesses, and just trying to protect the vulnerable populations. Now, the problem with that is there's quite a lot of right-wingish, sort of alt-righty kind of attention-seeking journalists out there saying things like that. A lot of people are saying that the whole coronavirus thing is overblown and hyped up and exaggerated, and you look at the statistics. If you look at the statistics, you find there's a small number of dead people as opposed to the population, and a very large public health response, a large and expensive and, they say, unwarranted response. But I've been thinking about this, and that's what I thought about basically in the middle of March even. As late as the middle of March. Look at the statistics coming from China. Yeah, a couple thousand people dying. There's 1 billion people in China. What's the biggie? Now, I didn't entertain the possibility that the Chinese government could just be simply lying through their teeth about it to protect themselves, or just to protect their reputations. And furthermore, there's not only is there just government mendacity, deliberate mendacity regarding the statistics, but there's also, the more I think about it, the more one thinks about it, a great deal of occasions where there's these instances where many deaths and many health problems are going to go under the radar as far as government statistics is concerned. The government's not going to even know about it, and the statisticians and record keepers won't even know about it. I mean, China's this example of this Stalinist dictatorial government that basically has enforced a code of silence on it has had brutal, severe public health measures like welding up the doors of apartment buildings and locking people into their buildings, and enforcing a code of silence, like arresting journalists and just silencing anyone who's saying anything about it. And that's one thing. Now, but if you look at recent footage from Ecuador, on YouTube, there's a different story entirely. There's countless thousands of dead bodies in the streets, dead bodies in body bags piled up with the garbage, countless hundreds of coffins packed into cemeteries waiting burial, and they go around hospitals, and there's trolleys and gurneys lying around with bodies on them in the car parks, and bodies, rooms full of stuff full of bodies, refrigerated trailers, the doors open, just stuffed full of dead bodies in bags. And about a few weeks ago, the official statistics were that only a couple of hundred people in Ecuador died, and then the government of Guayas, the province, says that there's thousands of deaths, and they've collected countless, thousands of bodies, which contradicts the official statistics on a few hundred deaths from coronavirus in Ecuador. And furthermore, it's so outrageous. There's people dumping bodies on the streets and running away. So many people just putting their dead relatives on fishing boats and rowing out to the sea and dumping them into the sea. And so many people have done that these bodies are washing back up on the beach. I guess the sharks are. But there's this other side of it, which is, in an industrialized country, like say America, or Europe, European countries, they could collect all the bodies from the hospitals, put them on trains and trucks, and anonymously and quietly take them to an incinerator or a mass grave, and they'd all be gone. I mean, out of sight, out of mind. Whether they get recorded properly or improperly is another matter. There's a great potential in industrialized countries for people to just simply hush it all up. But there's less of that in third world countries because they can't hide anything, because they don't have railways and roads and incinerators and government infrastructure and things. So anyway, but even in America, take America for an example. How many people, they talk about in America about uninsurable poor people. They frankly talk about people who are so poor that they can't afford, maybe they have chronic illnesses, and they're in cohorts that are at risk of disease. But there's quite a lot of poor people in America who are considered uninsurable. And these people, if they go to a hospital, they get turned away because they don't have insurance. And someone like that, if he gets turned away from the hospital, what's he going to do? He's just going to go home and die. And he won't make it into a hospital. He won't be examined. He won't be diagnosed. He won't be given any kind of treatment. And he won't get into any statistics either. He just won't make it into any kind of government statistics. Otherwise, if he just goes at home and or just dies on the street in an alleyway or in the forest, if he drops dead in the forest, he'll disappear. And he won't. At least if he died in the streets, there'd be a record of thought. Public sanitation workers recording how many bodies they picked up on the streets, but that would be minimal. And in Europe, for example, all these no-go zones where these Muslim drug gangs won't let the police or the fire brigade or anyone into their neighbourhoods. And in these, Macron in France has said that he won't even enforce public health policies in the no-go zones because it's just too hard. And even in the third world, Africa, I mean, you can drop dead anywhere. You can drop dead in the bush, drop dead in the fields, drop dead in your house, drop dead in an alleyway. You're just a dead body. And I mean, even in, as I understand it, in a lot of jurisdictions in the Western world, all you need is a recognised medical professional of some sort to fill in a form outlining the cause of death, the probable cause of death. And that is enough, just a local doctor to fill in a form saying what they probably died of, and that's enough to completely bypass, I mean, the police. After that, the police won't investigate the death as a suspicious one, or if it's not recorded as some kind of murder or untimely death. If a medical professional records a cause of death which is not, a result of crime, like, probable cause, which is what's, for example, even what's happening in Ecuador, is a lot of the people are being classified as lung failure, so they don't have to say coronavirus. But anyway, the point is, if a medical professional lists the cause of death, which could be natural causes, heart failure, fever. The point is, there's all ways and means where a death by coronavirus won't make its way into government statistics. And in fact, the way the world is, it's structured against. It's structured in favour of poor statistics and poor record keeping, and it makes accurate record keeping is hard simply by the nature of things. I mean, not even considering government corruption. So, I mean, I think there's reason for great caution that, I mean, the model the Swedish government is pursuing is this, I think, a very misguided one, because they're under the impression that the coronavirus is a severe flu, like the ones that come every winter. It will pass through. A lot of people will get flu symptoms. They'll be sick. They'll be bedridden in a couple of weeks. They might be sick for a week or two, but they'll get better. The flu will carry off a few vulnerable old people in nursing homes, but like it does every year, and the thing will pass. And this is the model that the Swedish government's working on. But unfortunately, they've got that impression from erroneous statistics. I believe, one way or another, badly skewed statistics. And I mean, that's the difficulty at present. I mean, do the Swedes want to end up like Ecuador? I mean,